30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Welcome into the George Plaster Show, broadcasting live from the beautiful Fordyce Center here in Bellevue. My name is Billy Derrick, filling in for George once again today, alongside David Wilson. It's just me and David today, but we got a loaded show for you today. We've got 3 guests coming on. IndyCar driver Callum Illot. He's British, so we had a fun conversation with him. He's going to join us to talk about his career, his start in IndyCar, and, of course, the Music City Grand Prix coming up, so stay tuned for that. Teddy Cahill at 2:40 covers college baseball for Baseball America. We're going to recap last night's LSU Wake Forest game with Teddy and preview the national championship starting Saturday night. That's tomorrow night up in Omaha. And then at 3 o'clock, the legendary Tim Brando will join us, talk a little college football. He's from Louisiana, so we'll talk a little bit about LSU's win last night as well, and then we'll wrap it up with George's pick to click tonight, bet of the day tonight. So we got that coming up for you on the slate today. Not a ton to get to in the update, but David, last night, as I welcome you in, was unbelievable. I mean, that I know we just got through watching the highlights of it, LSU and Wake Forest. I don't know that I've seen a better pitching matchup in all my years watching college baseball. I know we're young, but, I mean, Skeens, Rhett Lauder, and then you get the late inning heroics from Tommy White in the bottom of the 11th. I don't think it gets any better than that.
Well, those are 2 guys that are going to be first-round picks in next month's MLB draft. They were as advertised. We talked about it yesterday. I said, you got to give Wake a chance because I really feel like Rhett Lauder is going to come out and show the world who he is. You know, not everybody's watching Wake Forest baseball.
Yeah.
He's got some really good stuff, a good fastball around 95, that changeup that he can throw to righties and lefties. He's going to be a really good prospect in the big league system soon, but Paul Skeens, I know he's your guy. Dominant last night.
Oh, my gosh.
Dominant.
He threw over 120, I think, again.
He's just a bulldog.
He's a horse. And you saw Rhett Lauder, they took him out in the 7th inning. He had thrown, I think, 88 pitches. So that's the difference between Paul Skeens and a guy like Lauder. It's nothing against Lauder.
I'm sure Lauder would have said it in the game if he wanted to. Sometimes the coach kind of says,
I saw
it's your time.
Yeah, they had a shot of him in the dugout with his coach, and Lauder, he was kind of feeling his arm a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe it was the coach's decision. But
you got to think he was emptying the tank, though. I mean, that's a really high-stress game.
Lauder had pitched Saturday, too. So, but Skeens, I don't think Skeens going longer than Lauder was the difference. The difference was one swing.
Yeah,
it was said yesterday.
You know, Wake Forest's inability to get some hits. You know, Skeens comes out the game, they still couldn't get to Thatcher Hurd.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's just been the difference. We've talked about it. You know, Wake Forest was dominant offensively during the regular season, during the regional, during the supers. That offense really didn't show up in Omaha, but I missed that game. It was such an instant classic. You know, it just had that tight feel where you knew one swing of the bat, like you mentioned yesterday, was going to be the difference in the game.
And it wasn't, you know, sometimes you get slugfests like that are boring and kind of like, oh, when is this going to end? This was like, I don't want this to end.
I mean, as an audience, we love the home run. We love high-scoring games. But last night's game was a throwback, a well-pitched game from both sides. Both teams playing good defense. So
it was clean.
You really love those kind of games, Billy, but that's the first walk-off home run to break a scoreless tie in College World Series history.
I wrote that down, too.
Yeah, Tommy White's 23rd homer of the year. He has 100 RBIs. So that's
absurd.
Rare.
I mean, that doesn't happen. And the college season is so much shorter than Major League.
Yes, Paul Skeens went 8 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. Rhett Lauder went 7 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 6 Ks. First men's College World Series game since 1974. Where both starters went 7 innings and allowed 3 or fewer hits.
Wow. I mean, that's history right there. I mean, we're going to look back at this game, and you'll know where you were. I know you said you didn't get to watch it, but, I mean, you know, you'll know, okay, I didn't get to watch it. I was at the Sound State. Like, that's one of those games where you look back and say, okay, this is going in the history books. And so for LSU, they're moving on to play Florida.
It just means more, right?
It just means more. Whenever, and I think I saw the number, I don't know if you have this in the notes, but I saw where this is the 3rd time in something like 6 or 7 years where there's been an all-SEC national title. We saw LSU in Florida back in 2017. Of course, Vandy and Mississippi State in 2021. And then there was another one in there. But, I mean, it happens. This is the third one. Yeah, third one is this year. So
yeah, tomorrow night's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So LSU, Florida starts tomorrow night, I would guess 6
p.m.
6 o'clock. And then game 2 on Sunday. And then, if necessary, game 3 Monday night. So we'll see.
Can LSU get to Monday? Because that's the only day Skeens could possibly
might even have
pitch.
a chance because he would be going on 3 days rest, right?
Yeah.
And so at that
point,
point,
it would be in a relief role.
Yeah, at that point, and I said this yesterday, could you imagine Skeens coming in the 7th, 8th, 9th to close it out? I mean, they would do that, right? So I think maybe for LSU, if you can, I'm not saying lose game 1 so you can get to a game 3, you want to win both, but if you can find a way to maybe, if you lose game 1, grit your teeth and win game 2, and then you got Skeens to close it out for you in game 3 potentially, or maybe as a what do they call it, a starter, like a
bullpen game?
Well, a bullpen game, but they call a starter.
The
opener, right, and maybe as an opener. So, again, who knows what'll happen, but we'll talk all about that with Teddy Cahill. He is reporting live from Omaha, so we'll get to him at 2:40, so stay tuned for that. David, NBA draft last night. What I know, obviously there were a ton of headlines. Victor Wembanyama goes number 1 overall. I saw where he was crying when they interviewed him. He's an impressive kid. I mean, he's only 19 years old, but he's really mature from what I saw. You know, I think he signed an autograph for a kid, threw their whatever it was up to the stands. But I mean, he's an impressive looking kid.
You know, we mentioned this yesterday on the show. There's no better organization for him to go into than the Spurs, the Greg Popovich organization that's synonymous with winning, with R.C. Buford. You know, their international flavor that they've had over the years, whether it was with Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, they seem to get the best out of international players. Seems like a great fit for him in the system with Pop. You know, they run amazing sets, so they're going to find a way to get him involved. You know, he's one of the greatest prospects we've ever seen, probably the best prospect we've seen since LeBron James back in 2003. I got some nuggets on him. He's the second tallest number 1 pick. He's 7'4". The tallest would be Yao Ming.
So Yao Ming was number 1 overall.
Correct.
I didn't know that. What year was that? I wonder.
Didn't put that in there.
Okay.
Thanks for putting me on the spot like that.
That's crazy. Who would have thought that? I totally forgot Yao Ming was the number 1 overall pick.
And then, of course, you got the local kid, Brandon Miller, going 2 to the Hornets. Seems like it's going to be a really good fit with him for LaMelo Ball and Miller to be together.
Play the 3, I would get, maybe the 2.
He can score the basketball. We've seen him be dominant at times. He only shot 43% at Alabama. I'm sure he's going to have to work on that. Yeah, it was bad in the tournament.
And I heard a lot of analysts talk about that, you know, kind of reference that and say, Brandon Miller really struggled in the postseason with all the eyes on him. So could you imagine, you know, in the NBA, you're going to have even more eyes on you. So for
smaller market, though. Charlotte's not a big market, so there's not going to be a lot of eyes on him.
It probably helps, you know, if he landed in New York or LA or Chicago, it probably helps that he's in Charlotte, a struggling team. You know, they were okay last year, but, you know, for Brandon Miller, I feel like that's a good situation for him.
Second Alabama player taking the top 2, Antonio McDyess back in 95.
Okay, I was going to say Sexton. Sexton was up there.
Yeah, but I think he was top 4.
Yeah, okay.
Because he went to Cleveland.
Okay.
Obviously, Scoot Henderson goes to the Trailblazers. We'll pair him with Dame Lillard. Who is Dame even going to be in Portland? There's been controversy.
Saw that on the TV today.
Will he finally get traded? So that's a really interesting point. Then we got the Thompson bros going back to back. Amen to Houston and also to Detroit. So they're the first pair of brothers to go in the top 5 since the NBA-ABA merger.
Wow. It's funny. The names in this draft are great. Amen, Scoot Henderson. I mean, Grady Dick, of course. I mean, some of the names are unbelievable in this NBA draft.
Another note I put in there with Wemby and Scoot going in the top 3. This is the 3rd draft since 1966 where we've had multiple players in the top 3 picks not play college basketball.
Yeah, I saw that. And it feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect there, right? And I feel like it's getting bigger from, you know, you look at guys in college, they're not landing early in the draft anymore. It's, you know, a G League player, which I think has helped the NBA, or an international guy. I know Brandon Miller was up there, and you've got college guys up there, but I feel like the NBA is they're more of an international game, almost like baseball, but baseball still gets a good amount of college prospects. So that caught my attention where, okay, I mean, what was the number you said there? for the amount of college?
That's only happened 3 times.
Only happened 3 times. So, and it's probably going to keep happening. You're probably going to see more and more of this. So that'll be interesting.
Yep. We'll transition on. Actually, one more note. Michigan had 2 players in the top 15 this year drafted. First time since 1994 with Juwan Howard and Jalen Rose. So Michigan turning out 2 top 15 picks. Stat of the day, we'll also have a NBA draft nugget and see if Billy can get that one.
Put me on the spot.
Some NFL news, Billy. The Bills have announced contract extensions for their GM, Brandon Beane, and Sean McDermott. They'll be extended through the 2027 season. Obviously, McDermott, he's 49 years old. He's 62-35 as the Bills head coach. 4-5 in the postseason, but he's already ranks 3rd all time in that franchise's winningest coaches.
He's been phenomenal. I mean, what he's done up there, you look at it, I don't know if there's been a Bills coach that has done what he's done as quick as he has. And he's been through a lot. I look back at the DeMar Hamlin situation and how I don't think there was a better coach to handle that situation. I mean, he's cerebral. He's a relatable guy. He's approachable, and he was able to rally that team. I know they ended up losing in the playoffs, but I mean, I think he played a huge role in that and just kind of rallying the troops. So good for him.
And they have a franchise quarterback in Josh Allen who's perfectly fit for that town, that city.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is a blue-collar guy.
Yeah.
They've said, we need you to stop running and stop taking hits, but he is a bulldozer, and he will get you every single yard. So he kind of is the face of that franchise and is epitome of what that city represents.
Yeah, and George and I have talked about it a lot with Josh Allen. He's got to learn how to sort of calm it down a little bit. Maybe not go for the deep shot all the time. I mean, it feels like, especially in the playoffs, he was forcing a little bit.
He's so stupid talented. That arm strength is amazing.
Yeah, and you want him to use it. It's just, okay, hey, he's still young. Let's harness it. And we want you to run the football, but at the same time, if you just make smart plays, make the check down throw. I know when we had Herm Edwards on about a month ago, that's what he was talking about with Josh Allen. So I think that's sort of the next step for Josh Allen. But I mean, he's got the head coach Doug McDermott to help him do that.
Sean McDermott,
Doug McDermott played for the Creighton Blue Jays. Sean McDermott.
There you go. Another little NFL nugget. The vote for the Commanders sale will happen next month. Obviously, Josh Harris is leading the group. That will be the buyers for the Commanders. Interesting nugget on him. He just purchased a stake in Joe Gibbs Racing, which will be our next topic here in Nashville with NASCAR coming in.
That's up your alley.
Yeah, $6.05 billion.
Wow.
For the Commanders. So,
wow.
Dan Snyder, as George likes to call him, little small stuff. He's getting a little wealthier. So.
Yeah. George would have some good stuff on this one. This topic.
And I just threw this in there because it's fun, and George is not here, so he'll make fun of me when he sees it. But NASCAR coming to Nashville this weekend, out in Lebanon at the Nashville Super Speedway.
Night race
tonight. The Craftsman Truck Series is going to get underway. The Rackley Roofing 200 tomorrow. The Xfinity Series takes around the track.
Big weekend.
Yeah, Tennessee Lottery 250. Then on Sunday night, I will be there. Ally 400, so that'll be
are you getting there earlier, or are you just kind of
probably get there around 2:00?
Because you got to get there somewhat early to beat a lot of that parking lot traffic. And hopefully they've solved a lot of
it was a nightmare year one. It was so much better last year.
Because I was there year one too, and I mean it took us. There was only one. Wasn't there only one entry and exit?
You got to go to 840. Correct.
I mean and so they've changed that. Right, there's multiple entry points now. There's more than just one entry point, which is
and
good.
They've changed it. In the 2 prior years, it's been a day race, and it's been sweltering outside. They had to be passing out ice to all the fans.
Yeah,
so many people were getting overwhelmed, overheated, things of that nature. It's a night race. 622 green flag. Chase Elliott's your defending winner. 2 Hendrick Motorsports drivers, Larson and Elliott, have won the first 2 races. So we'll see if Hendrick can continue their dominance.
We'll see.
Or if somebody
Larson won
dominant
a couple years.
Dominant.
It looked like he was in a lead the whole time.
Correct. He was in a league of his own.
Yeah. But credit to them and those decision makers to make those decisions and figure out the parking, figure out the time of the race. It's going to be a party. It was a fun time a couple years ago.
Has embraced it. We've had 2 sellouts, and it's probably going to be a sellout again this year. Actually, they announced it the other day. The grandstands are completely full. They are sold out. They have premium seating available.
No surprise.
But, Nashville knows how to throw a party. We're going to see that with the Grand Prix here in a few months. But NASCAR in the South and Nashville, it doesn't get better than that.
No, it doesn't. Ally 400 Sunday night, 6:22. Green flag?
6:22 green flag.
Okay. Maybe
On NBC, so it's going to be in prime time.
On NBC, prime time. David will be there. Ally 400. Doesn't get better than that this weekend. So I know we got a lot of people excited about that this weekend. Coming up, we're going to talk a little IndyCar. Not NASCAR. I know David would love to have a NASCAR driver on with us, but IndyCar. Of course, we got the Music City Grand Prix coming up August 4th through the 6th. We're going to be joined by Callum Illot. Yeah, that last night that's a British last name, so you'll be able to tell with his accent. August 4th through the 6th is the Music City Grand Prix. We'll tell you all about the Music City Grand Prix after this interview with Callum Illot, an IndyCar driver. So stay tuned. We've got all that and much more coming right up here on the George Plaster Show.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Lanes. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over.
Welcome back to the George Plaster Show. Joining us now, Callum Illot, IndyCar racer. He will be racing in Nashville August 4th through the 6th. We were just talking before we got on. I said, you racing August 4th? He said, well, I'm racing several different dates, so we'll figure that out. But obviously there's several different dates, August 4th through the 6th. So many different races going on and so much going on in Nashville. Callum, first off, I got to ask, how excited are you? I'm not sure if you raced last time this event was in Nashville, but how excited are you to be back in Nashville and back in the Music City racing?
Yeah, I was there last year. It's quite a tough race, very tight circuit for us, but yeah, it's a great city, good fun and a good event for us to go to. That's for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned the tight circles. How different is this course compared to other courses that you're used to on the IndyCar circuit?
Yeah, so we have a mix of ovals, road courses, and street circuits. And Nashville being a street circuit, it's very, very tight. very bumpy, and those two things add quite a challenge. Normally in history, the races have been quite chaotic for us at Nashville. It's definitely one of the more interesting races where anything can kind of happen. So that's what makes it quite challenging, and it's very difficult to predict the strategy for the race and then the outcome of it, definitely.
That's interesting. So the length itself, I heard it's about 2.7, I think, miles is the track. So is that pretty big, or is that kind of the average size of the track for IndyCar?
I would say it's average, maybe on the smaller side. Again, it depends the speed at which you're doing it. So I think it's on the smaller side of some of the lengths of the circuit, but because it's a few slow speed corners, it takes a little bit longer to cover that distance.
So obviously you'll be in Nashville. I'm not sure. I guess you guys get there a few days before. I'm sure some people might get there a week before and kind of enjoy the city if they haven't been there. But what are some of the things that you like to do? I know you were here last year when they had it in Nashville. What have been your favorite places to go in Nashville, to eat, to do? What have you found in Nashville that you like?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're racing so often that I think we end up just going home and then arriving there as late as possible. But last year, I have to say I went to a few like chicken wing places. They were good. Otherwise, yeah, there's obviously a lot of bars and stuff, but we're here to be professional and race and stay away from those. I also see there's a lot of those kind of party buses driving around, but I've yet to find myself on one of those. So no, it's kind of one of those, you're at hotel track working, and you don't really see the fun side of it too much. But no, it looks like a great place, cool place. A couple of the drivers I think live there, and enjoy their lifestyle there.
Yeah, stay away from the party buses. I know you guys are lasered in. I would not recommend hopping on one of those. On Nashville, what does this mean for IndyCar? The fact that obviously you said the race is tough. It's obviously tough for you guys. It's a challenge. I'm sure you guys like that challenge. You welcome the challenge. But what does this mean for IndyCar as a whole, that a city like Nashville gets a race like this in front of such a large audience who's watching? What does that mean for the sport itself, that you get all kinds of different new eyes on the sport?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's great for the sport. It's also great for the city as well, because you're kind of bringing two atmospheres together. It gives in some ways a lot of eyes towards IndyCar and also a lot of eyes towards the city and what it has to offer. So yeah, it's a good shared atmosphere. Of course, as people, we all enjoy the city as well. So it's just mutually beneficial. IndyCar is a good fun motorsport, high class racing with some craziness mixed into it, and Nashville kind of shows the best of that. So it's a good atmosphere, and of course we want to encourage as many people to get into watching IndyCar as much as possible. And there's no better place than Nashville to go and explore best of both worlds.
Yeah, Nashville is a big NASCAR area. Of course, the South in general loves auto racing, really of any kind, NASCAR, IndyCar. But I get this a lot from people, big racing fans. What's the difference? What makes IndyCar different than NASCAR? Obviously, I would assume you're familiar with NASCAR as well. If somebody asked you that, how would you describe the main differences between a NASCAR race and an IndyCar race, and how the cars are different, how the strategies are different? How would you sort of assess the big differences between NASCAR and IndyCar?
I've never driven a NASCAR, but from the basis, they've both got a lot of history. Obviously, the Indy 500 has been going on for 170 years. NASCAR's been going on for a long time. Maybe IndyCar's got a little bit more history to it in that sense. But both great forms of motorsport. The simplest way to put it is IndyCar is open wheel. NASCAR is like a closed cockpit, more normal looking car. IndyCar is slightly quicker. I think we reach about 240 miles an hour at the Indy 500. I'm not sure exactly what NASCAR reaches, but I'm going to guess about 220 maybe at the Daytona 500. Then yeah, it's very different styles of racing. I think they have stages, a mix of different, a longer, more maybe aggressive kind of bumper to bumper, banging wheels racing. We have to be a little bit more civilized, but it still can get quite chaotic. It's not as easy to end up hitting each other and getting away with it. Um, and then yeah, I think we have about 27 cars racing in Nashville. I'm not sure how many will be on a NASCAR event, but yeah, we've mainly concentrated on the kind of Midwest part as well. We do some races in California. We have a race in Toronto. Yeah, I don't know. You've probably got a better understanding of NASCAR than I have. I mean, I come from Europe, racing Formula 3, Formula 2, doing a bit in Formula 1, and that's quite a different atmosphere to out here, that's for sure.
Yeah, we've got my producer David over here. He's a huge NASCAR fan, and I know you were asking about the top speed of a NASCAR. I mean, did you have that?
Yeah, it'll be around 200 miles per hour.
Okay.
But I was going to ask you this. Kyle Larson, who's a famous NASCAR driver, is saying he wants to do the Indianapolis 500 next year. How good is that for the sport? To, kind of cross over and have multiple athletes do that. I know Tony Stewart did that way back in the day, doing the double Memorial Day weekend. Is that good for the sport?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great to have a kind of merger of fans. We already have a weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway later on in the year where we're racing on Saturday and NASCAR is racing on Sunday. I think it's called the Brickyard Weekend. And that's a great crossover. I think obviously Kyle has a lot of talent to drive many different things. I've seen he does a bit of the dirt racing. And yeah, Tony Stewart was very successful when he came across. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. And I hear Kyle is very competitive and very fast, and he'll be with a good team as well when he competes in the 500 next year.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, for you personally, what's your favorite track on the IndyCar circuit so far? Why is that? Future cities that you would like to see maybe IndyCar go to in the future?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the 500 is our biggest event. It's an incredible event that nothing really compares to that much. But outside of that, it's got a good mix. I mean, Road America we just did, great classic track for us. I know NASCAR's there as well. And you've got Barber, Mid Ohio for us next week. And then the street circuits. Long Beach has a good history. That's a good fun race. And then we do Iowa as well, so a short oval for us, which for me was my first experience of racing on a short oval, and yeah, it's some incredible racing. Lots of tire degradation, so there's a massive mix of strategies. You can be 2 laps down and make your way back through the field. Yeah, it's a good mix.
As a competitor, I know you dream about winning the Indy 500, but it was still pretty cool as a competitor to see Joseph Newgarden finally break through. He's been so close in years past. Just kind of talk about him and that Indy 500 win. And, it probably meant a lot to him and the captain, Roger Penske.
Yeah, no, Joseph's been very competitive there for many years, and I think it's probably been quite frustrated never to pull it off until this year. And yeah, once I heard he crossed the line in P1, I was like, oh, fair play. He's been trying for many years, and obviously Roger as well. They've had some tough years. Penske have always just their abouts not been the quickest, and yeah, they managed to do it. So fair play to them. And Joseph, yeah, there's not many more deserving guys than that with the perseverance he has.
Callum, real quick here before we let you go, thanks again for coming on. For anybody interested in maybe learning about you, following you on social media, what you got coming up in your career with obviously your future in IndyCar and coming to the Nashville race, what are your plans for the future, and how can people maybe find you and maybe reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm on Instagram and Twitter, all the standard stuff, Callum_Illot. Yeah, I'm going to be competing in IndyCar probably for the foreseeable future for a while. Yeah, it's been a great career option for me coming from Europe, and we've got I think another at least 10 plus races for this season, all the way till mid-September, and then yeah, we'll get a bit of a long off season, see what other things I can do or drive, and then into next year, and it all starts again.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Nashville coming up August the 4th through the 6th, Music City Grand Prix. Can't wait to see you. We'll be rooting you on in whatever day you race there. We'll figure that out. We'll find it out. We'll be
There's too
rooting
many
you on.
dates. I never know until I'm told to go there.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for coming on, Callum.
Thank you very much for having me.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Welcome back into the George Plaster Show alongside David Wilson. I'm Billy Derrick, and let's talk a little college baseball. Last night, just an unbelievable game in Omaha, and Teddy Cahill from Baseball America, national writer for Baseball America, joins us now on the George Plaster Show. Teddy, thanks again for taking the time, and I want to ask you first, what was the atmosphere like last night? I know you are there still in Omaha, at least I think. What was the atmosphere like, and have you seen a game like that in Omaha ever?
I mean, the atmosphere was good. It was a pretty typical atmosphere for a game of that magnitude here in Omaha. The game, though, no. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. It was an incredible game. people are going to be talking about that game here and in Baton Rouge and probably in Winston-Salem too for a really, really long time. It was a special one for sure.
Tommy White's home run was the first walk-off homer to break a scoreless tie in Men's College World Series history, which I thought was a crazy number. With Tommy White, he's been, I don't know if I'd say struggling, but he's been kind of hit or miss in Omaha. So were you surprised to see him step up in that moment, or was it more of, hey, this is Tommy White, this is why he came to LSU for moments like this?
Yeah, I mean, you can never be surprised if Tommy White does anything on the baseball field. Like he's a special player, and in a big moment, he stepped up and did what his team needed him to do. So no, you can never be surprised if he or Cruz or Skeens or Trey Morgan or a lot of the guys on this LSU team do anything.
You mentioned Paul Skeens. Unbelievable performance. He did the same thing on Saturday against Tennessee. And you look at him, I told my co-host David earlier in our update segment that he's a horse. Like you saw Rhett Lauder, he went, I think, 7 innings. He finished at about 88 pitches. His arm might have been hurting him a little bit. Who knows whose decision that was. Maybe you got that after the game. But for Paul Skeens, I mean, he probably could have thrown 15, 20 more pitches. He probably could have gone 9 innings. So that to me is the difference with Paul Skeens. So from your perspective, what separates Paul Skeens from everybody else other than just all the pitches he's able to throw?
I mean, it's like literally everything. You're looking at a dude that has 102 in his back pocket. His slider is exceptional. His changeup is really, really, really good. He throws with incredible command for a pitcher like that. Like Rhett Lauder has impeccable command as well, but he's dealing with it. He's doing it. He's just a smaller pitcher, and like he doesn't throw quite as hard. Like you kind of expect that guy to be able to pitch with command. You don't expect the dude with 102 to also be a guy that never walks players, basically. And then, I mean, the truest separator of them all, though, is just the mentality that he pitches with, that he plays with in general. Some of that is because he spent a couple of years at the Air Force Academy. Some of that is just who Paul Skeens is. But no matter where it comes from, like that is one of the biggest separators for him on the baseball field.
And the Florida Gators await LSU in the National Championship Series. Of course, that'll start tomorrow night in Omaha. And for Florida, Teddy, you look at them. They haven't had to play in a few days. They're well rested. So, do you give them an advantage here, or are you riding LSU and their momentum and the home field advantage they're going to have?
Well, I mean, so I think that Florida deserves to be the favorite. Like I understand that almost everyone's probably going to pick Florida, but not me. I'm just going to stick with LSU. That was my pick in the preseason. It was the pick at the start of the tournament. Like I've been with it this far, so I'm not going to hop off now.
Okay, so riding with LSU, I'm going to go with you there as well. It's hard to bet against LSU right now. We got a few more questions for you from my co-host David, but I got one about the MLB draft. Obviously, we're here in Nashville. Vanderbilt, one of the more dominant programs in the country. They've got a guy by the name of Enrique Bradfield Jr., who is expected to go top 15, top 20. Do you see him falling back at all due to some of his struggles at the plate this year, or do you still see him as a top 15 projected draft pick in the MLB draft?
Top 15 is a little rich, probably. I mean, he's just such a difficult player to get a true handle for because there really are very few comparable players in this year's draft class. I mean, you're looking at a guy that, has elite speed, is an elite defender in center field. Center field's still a, premium defensive position. But he also, in one of the more offensive years in college baseball history, did not impact the baseball in the same way that some other guys that you're going to be looking at are. So, like right now, we have him ranked as the number 17 prospect in the draft. And, I mean, who knows from there? Draft day gets a little goofy, and in that range a lot of things can happen, but he's still going to go pretty high in the draft.
Teddy Cahill from Baseball America joining us now. David, what you got for him?
Hey, Teddy, appreciate you joining us. I'm going to stick with Billy and ask you a draft-related question. The Pirates have the number 1 overall pick. MLB.com has stayed consistent that Dylan Cruz of LSU is going to be their number 1 overall selection, the best position player on the board. But, there's been some buzz lately that how can you pass up a guy like Paul Skeens at number 1, probably the best pitching prospect we've seen since Steven Strasburg from San Diego State. So in your opinion, is Pittsburgh going to go the outfielder with Cruz, or do you see them maybe pivoting to take Skeens at number 1?
Well, I mean, I would not take I would take Skeens, but no, I think that the Pirates draft history suggests that they will take a position player, whether that's Dylan Cruz or not. I don't know, but I do not believe that they will take Paul Skeens.
Interesting. I know that might hurt Billy's feelings a little bit. He just thinks Skeens is so dominant.
For me, Teddy, I wouldn't pass on Skeens. And again, with the Pirates, and you mentioned their history, it's just interesting how the teams are different. Like the Pirates are different than who has the second pick, David? Washington. So obviously Washington's sitting there saying, okay, yeah, we're hopefully we can land Skeens there at number 2. But if I was a GM, it would be tough to pass on Paul Skeens.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's different. Like, I wouldn't do it either. But if you're looking at the Pirates, they haven't drafted a pitcher in the first round since 2012, and things have changed over the last decade. Like who's in the front office and who's not in Pittsburgh, but they haven't taken a pitcher in the first round in a decade, and I think that kind of history speaks volumes.
Yeah, Teddy, can you kind of walk us through the expected pitching matchups we might see this weekend? Obviously, for LSU, we might not see Paul Skeens till Monday, but Florida's got their rotation probably set up better, obviously, with the day's rest. So just kind of walk through who we'll see on the Florida side tomorrow night and on Sunday, rather, and then on the LSU side.
Yeah, so I mean, Florida's going to roll with their rotation that they've been rolling with throughout the season. So that'll be Sprode on Saturday and Waldrop on Sunday, and Caglione if it gets there on Monday. That's not official. They haven't announced it, but there's no way that isn't the way that it goes down. LSU is obviously in a different position. They have a much less certain rotation anyway. I would expect Ty Floyd on Saturday. I guess you have to expect Nate Ackenhausen on Sunday, I suppose. And then Monday would just be however they feel best about cobbling together 9 innings.
Absolutely. And this is going to be the last one for me. Once again, appreciate you taking the time. We've seen throughout this College World Series, offenses kind of struggling to, produce runs, string together some hits. That hasn't been the problem for Florida. They have been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. A lot of home runs. Josh Rivera with the 2-run home run against Oral Roberts and TCU the other day. So just kind of talk to me about Florida's offense and, LSU's game plan and approach to kind of stymie them a little bit. Obviously, Wyatt Langford is going to be a top 5 pick in the draft as well.
I mean, actually, nobody's struggling offensively more than Florida out here, arguably. I have not seen I don't have their latest numbers in front of me, but after 3 games, they were hitting under 200 as a team. If they were to not really improve that number, it would be the lowest a team has hit in Omaha and won the national championship since UCLA in 2013, which was at the absolute height of the dead ball era. I don't think Florida feels like they've played very well out here. And, to their credit, they've found a way to win 3 games and put themselves in this position. But I think that they know they're going to have to play a little bit better. They're going to have to find some more consistent hits. I mean, they're getting the big hits. Their slugging percentage is just fine out here, but the consistency of the offense has been a real issue.
That's scary to think about, that the fact that Florida has felt like they have better baseball ahead. Scary for LSU. LSU's not scared. Their fans certainly aren't scared. There's probably a ton of LSU fans making their way up to Omaha right now as we speak. Teddy, one more from me as we let you go. In 2017, we saw LSU and Florida face each other. Florida got the better of LSU. That Florida team, honestly, in 2017 felt better just overall than that LSU team. And obviously LSU had a big home field advantage. Do you go back to 2017 at all when you think about this one? And obviously LSU has a different head coach, different players, different skill set type of team. Do you look back at 2017 at all when you think about this national championship matchup and maybe think to yourself, okay, LSU, this as a program, you can't let that happen again?
No, I don't think it matters one bit. I have made the connection because the parallels are really uncanny that Florida beats TCU in the bracket final. Meanwhile, LSU has to come out of the losers bracket to beat the number 1 overall seed, this unbeatable team in Oregon State, and like this Wake Forest team was then also the number 1 overall seed and had won more than 50 games. But I don't think it has any bearing on what's happening here. Like, Sully is still in the dugout, but he's literally the only person that was in the dugout in 2017 that'll be back there this year, except I guess Mike Rivera, who's in a completely different role. He was catching for that team and is now the Gators' first base coach.
Interesting. Obviously, all SEC matchup. It's good for you guys being able to cover the sport. It's great for college baseball. I think this tournament has been one of the best College World Series I've been alive. Of course, I'm in my 20s. There's probably some older people that might disagree, but I think it's been phenomenal. Teddy, thanks again for taking the time. Good luck with your coverage and have fun these next several days up in Omaha.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
That's Teddy Cahill from Baseball America. Does a great job covering college baseball. He's one of the best, David. So it's always good to get his insight on the sport. And, we talk about this national title game. We got 5-6 minutes here to kind of wrap this segment up. I asked him about 2017 because I know he said it obviously doesn't play into any of anyone's mind, really. I think it plays into LSU fans' minds, right? And as a fan base, you can kind of put that pressure on your team sometimes, right? Where you kind of get that feeling in the air of, is 2017 going to happen again, right? Are we going to get, again, I don't think the players probably aren't thinking about it, but just the whole feel of it, like from a fan base perspective, those LSU fans don't want to lose to Florida again.
I agree with you 100%. Kind of that feeling that you've talked about is what Tony Basilio has said about the Braves when they make it to the postseason in baseball. Atlanta has been known in the past before their World Series in 21 to be kind of chokers in the playoffs. The city as a whole, everybody talks about the 28-3, and so Basilio mentioned the other day how in playoff scenarios when the Braves fall down earlier, the fans, you kind of like suck the energy out of the team because it's, here we go again, kind of mindset. So I don't think that's going to happen with LSU this weekend. I think they're a confident team. I know you're rolling with LSU. I think Florida is in better shape pitching wise, and in this World Series, pitching has been the key. If you got a dominant guy like Rhett Lowder, or Paul Skeens, Chase Burns, Drew Beam pitched well. A dominant pitcher, good pitching always gets out good hitting. Yeah. That's been the tale of tape forever in baseball. So, with Omaha being the Grand Canyon, as George likes to describe, pitching matters. And with Florida having their guys lined up, I think Florida has the advantage.
They're set up. They're set up very well. I think LSU in game 1 is set up decently with Ty Floyd. I thought he pitched pretty well in his last time out. But then in game 2, it's where, okay, who do you go with? Is it Nate Ackenhausen, who pitched really well against Tennessee? And then, if you're able to win game 2, who do you cobble together? I know Teddy said, that'll likely be a bullpen game. I guess you probably have Paul Skeens available, but I don't know. I think that last night, that outing from Paul Skeens might have been the last we saw him in Omaha, unless, you need him to close it out on Monday night. I think that's, or as a starter,
opener.
So, opener.
We've talked about this leading into this week when we saw the bracket being released. We all said that top half of the bracket with Wake Forest, Stanford, Tennessee, LSU, that they were going to absolutely beat up on each other. And that's what happened. Yeah. They went to the furthest game, the elimination game, the winner take all to advance to the championship series. We said that the winner of the bottom half of the bracket, whether it be Florida or Roberts, TCU, that was going to be, or Virginia, that was going to be the team that was going to, win a championship. Yeah. So I think Florida's in the driver's seat. Now, they've been there before with Sully, he's been there before. But, Florida's really talented as well. LSU has been really good, one of the top 5 teams in the country as well. But Florida, with Caglione, he's the two-way.
You can't sleep on Florida.
He's the two-way Ohtani of college baseball. He can pitch and hit.
It's crazy. You asked Teddy about how Florida looks like they've been mashing the baseball. He said they've been struggling.
Well, every time I turn it on, I've seen home runs. They have the ability to rush the ball out of the ballpark. Yeah. That's for sure. And the
that's what would scare me as an LSU fan, where if you get a couple Florida swings, big swings with runners on, you could be out of a game like that. You know,
Correct. I mean, it's LSU can run into their home runs too as well. The dynamic duo of Cruz and Tommy White at the top of the order, that's scary as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, would you say that LSU's depth of the lineup might not be as good as Florida's? That's a really good question.
That's a good question. Like, so Florida up and down the lineup can really hurt you. I think the bottom of LSU's lineup's been a little iffy.
And that's the thing is Florida's pitchers are also really good as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Waldrop is going to be a first-round pick. Caglione is going to be a first-round pick. They're not tossing guys out there that are scrubs by any means, no whatsoever.
After game 2, you're not done with Florida's pitching. You got, by the way, you got Caglione coming in for game 3.
Absolutely. And he can pitch in a game 2 if the game is on the line,
if they have to, yeah.
But LSU, I think there's obviously been question marks about their bullpen all season long. Paul Skeens is an ace. The questions have not been about him. It's about the guys following him. And now the bullpen is delivered to this point.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean
can they go another round?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, they went that first round of the fight. Can they go another round in Omaha and keep it rolling? For me, you know, LSU feels like they've got that mojo. You know, they've got the momentum. They're playing, I wouldn't say house money. I mean, they're obviously a top 5 team.
There's pressure
in
for
the
them
country
to win a championship.
But there's pressure there to get back and get a trophy. But I don't know, with their fans coming up, it's going to be a home field advantage. With the way Cruz and White, like if Dylan Cruz and Tommy White can play the way they did last night, I don't see LSU losing this.
Now, I'll flip it on you. What's scary for Florida is that you've come out and told me that Dylan Cruz has not played to his capabilities in this College World Series. I say that he's too good and too talented of a player not to show up at some point. And, you know, with the stage...
Well, and he came up with a double last night, so he's probably getting back into a groove now.
The bright lights, you know, the best players show up in that moment. So he's going to be ready to go. You know, like Teddy said, he's going to be the first player picked in their minds. He's that good. Dude's hitting 400. That's stupid.
He's unbelievable.
That's absurd at the college level, hitting in the SEC. You're playing in the best conference in the country against the best pitchers. I mean, every Friday night guy in the SEC is an ace, is going to get drafted at some point probably.
I can't wait. Saturday night, LSU, Florida, game 1 of the National Championship Series. Game 2 will be Sunday, and Monday, game 3 if necessary. Hopefully we get a game 3. I'm going to keep watching college baseball up there.
That's the best words in sports. Game 3 and the 2 out of 3 or game 7. The best phrase, because that's what you dream of. Situations like last night where, you know, the moment's tense, you can feel the palms sweaty. That's when the best players like Cruz, like White,
Tommy
like
White.
Skeens, like Louder, they show up in those moments. And, you know, it changes the history of a program.
And it can for LSU if they keep these big swings rolling with Dylan Cruz and Tommy White. We'll see what happens again tomorrow night, 6:00, game 1 in the National Championship Series, LSU in Florida. That'll be fun. But what will also be fun is stat of the day. I have not looked at this question.
I have
not looked at the answer. I don't know the question. I don't know the answer. Coming up, David's going to try to stump me on stat of the day all by myself. So stay tuned. We got more of the Plaster Show coming right up.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
This is my buddy and former Nashville Sounds PA announcer Eric Berner. I always laughed in the old days at Greer Stadium when I would walk in, Eric would immediately play my favorite song, Van Halen's Jump. But then I learned he actually has a real job with Rockcastle Wealth Advisors.
Yeah, George, that's what I do. I help people in the pursuit of making their money live as long as they do. Everybody's situation is different, so I use a customized and individualized, personalized approach to the person I'm working with. Old 401ks, retirement planning, insurance planning, inheritance planning. Those are things that people like to get some more information about.
One of the things I find is people don't even know where to start, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, so I can usually help people with an initial phone call or meeting that is a no charge and no obligation.
And I'll bet you have a phone number and a website.
I do, George. They can call me at 615-235-1058 or rockcastlewealth.com or Eric at rockcastlewealth.com.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication. And we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards, in all sports, and then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general: baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised, and of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back in. It is time for Stat of the Day on a Feel Good Friday. Stat of the Day presented to you by the good folks at John English Antique Sports and Cards, located in Shelbyville, Tennessee. 204 East Depot Street is where you can find them. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So give them a call at 931-492-4304. Billy is all by himself.
Here we go.
For Saturday, we'll see if Billy can stump me. I gave you an easy one.
Okay.
So I feel like you should be able to get this one. And if you miss it, George will be very disappointed
All right, here
in
we go.
you. Okay. Cason Wallace last night became the 19th player to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft that played collegiately for John Calipari. Okay.
Okay.
19th player for Cal to be a top 10 pick. Okay. Can you name the only other coach in NCAA history who has had more players taken in the top 10 picks of an NBA draft?
My gut says Rick Pitino, but I don't think that's the answer.
Okay. I have my buzzer and my bell back.
You do.
So you have the pressure of this. So,
Okay. Is that right or wrong?
You might want to try again.
Okay.
just to be sure.
Okay, so Rick Pitino.
The head
don't think
coach
so.
with the most players picked in the top 10 in NCAA history. Don't overthink it.
John Wooden.
Won 10 titles.
Won 10 titles. Adolph Rupp, no, it's too old. He's won 10 titles?
Didn't Wooden win 10 titles?
Who?
Didn't John Wooden win 10 titles?
Yeah.
Okay. Who you going with, Billy? You're stalling.
It's got to be John Wooden. I mean,
is it?
You're making me second guess it.
Give me one final answer.
I mean, my gut says John Wooden. No.
You made it.
No,
This was easy, bro.
No Rick Pitino. Hold on.
This was easy.
Coach K.
Is that where you're going with?
Coach K, Dean Smith. Coach K. What I mean,
okay, there you go. That's better. I'm not going to give you an applause, but it is Coach K. He's had 24 players picked.
I was
in the top
it.
10 of an NBA draft. That's terrible. Come on, man. You knew this.
I knew it had to have been a recent person, but I was thinking a little bit older for some reason, an older coach. But Coach K, 24. Wow, that's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got my embarrassment out of the way. Let's get to Louisiana's own Tim Brando, Fox Sports commentator. You've seen him on college football, golf, probably does several other sports as well. Tim, it's been a while, but thank you so much for taking the time.
Great to be with you and give my best to George. It's always a pleasure to enter into the Plaster platform. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. He said he told me to tell you hi. So with George, he's up in Cincinnati for the Braves game. So hopefully he enjoys that. Tim, I know you enjoyed last night. Louisiana guy. How about that? LSU walks it off in Omaha. Obviously, a ton of LSU fans up there. What was your reaction to it last night?
Well, I know I'm from Louisiana, and I've had to shout this down for my entire career, particularly when I was doing SEC games. Maybe not as much any longer since I'm not doing SEC sports, but I'm not a fan of any one particular school or team, but I am a fan of my home state, and I know my home state is happy, which is a good thing because I live here. And I started my career in Baton Rouge, so I know there are a lot of happy people down there. And just because I love the game of college baseball, I did, long before you guys were born, I did 7 College World Series for ESPN between the years 1984 and 1985 and 1994. And I love the event. In those days, it was at old Rosenblatt Stadium, a bit of a bandbox. The wind blew out. We had, slow pitch softball scores in some games when you were down to the third or fourth pitcher. But the games were still great, and I saw a lot of stars. I mean, a lot of stars that went on to become magnificent big leaguers. And I remember at least a couple of games from my period in the booth in Omaha that were classics. I mean, really classics. And they weren't always the championship game. And I think last night's game, which technically is not a championship game, it was a semifinal in essence, will go down as one of, if not the greatest college baseball game ever played in the College World Series. I mean, it was, particularly if you ever played organized baseball, maybe all the way through high school at American Legion, you know how games like that, when you've got 2 incredible pitchers, can sometimes go. Puts a lot of pressure on the defense behind those pitchers to not screw it up, because one run is the difference. And, I thought that play in the 8th by Trey Morgan was, I'm an old left-handed first baseman, and the greatest first baseman defensively I ever saw in my lifetime was Wes Parker of the Los Angeles Dodgers. You'll have to look him up. He played in the 60s with Drysdale and Koufax and those great teams that Walter Alston had. That play that Morgan made is a play that even Wes Parker could not have made. So athletic. And a play that defensively they have to practice. The game on the line, the play is at home plate no matter what. It's a safety squeeze. How are you going to do it? And, he laid out. He gave up his body to make that play. It was nothing short of incredible. And there were other tremendous plays made by really both teams. And the 2 pitchers, well, not just the 2 starters who are going to be first-round draft picks, maybe going in the top 5 to 10, lived up to the expectations, but they raised the bar for everyone else on their team. That was, the Thatcher Hurd was, his stock went way up for his future. The way he pitched down the stretch for LSU. It was a special game, and one that I don't think we'll ever forget.
Yeah, Tim, you mentioned Rosenblatt Stadium, and I want to dive more into LSU and kind of their chances in the national championship series. But you know that stadium well. You just said you called games there. How have you seen college baseball grow? I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I've been a college baseball guy my whole life. I know you have as well. So many other people that have been college baseball people their whole life. This is nothing new to them, but I feel like there's more people jumping on the bandwagon. It's such an entertaining product. How have you personally seen the sport grow? Because there's no slowing down at this point.
No, I mean, during the era of the College World Series when I was there in the mid '80s, I was really fortunate. The calendar was great to me, Billy. I had a chance to join ESPN at almost its inception. The company was only 6 years old. It was struggling to find events to put on. They didn't have the NFL, didn't have Major League Baseball, certainly didn't have the NBA. It was college sports that sort of was the banner carrier for the network, college basketball particularly, and college baseball as well. And really no one had seen many college baseball games televised. And we did games every Sunday night. And as a youngster coming up out of Baton Rouge and beginning to freelance with them, I got a chance to do a ton of games in places like Starkville before they even had a press box. We actually called a Mississippi State LSU game with a lot of great players on the field: Will Clark, Rafael Palmeiro, Bobby Thigpen, among many, many others, that would win the College World Series. They wound up getting knocked out by Miami, did not make the finals, lost on a walk-off home run hit by a bullpen catcher named Greg Elena. Skip Bertman was an assistant coach with Ron Frazier that year. But I did a game at Dudy Noble Field in Starkville from behind home plate, called the game from behind a backstop, okay? And they had the original left field lounge back in those days. It was incredible. But the aluminum bat came into play in the college game in the early 80s. In the mid-70s, when I was coming up out of high school and into college, we were using wooden bats and bamboo bats. But the aluminum bat was in vogue, and that really was the first introduction, I think, from a television standpoint to the college game. And the ball just jumped off the bat. And if the ball was live and felt a little bit juiced, then the ball, any fly ball in left field, was going to carry out of the ballpark. They adjusted the bats, as you know, in recent years. They juiced the ball because they over-adjusted the bats a few years back. So they've been tinkering with the live ball or the dead ball, and the live bat or the dead bat ever since they went to aluminum. I'm so old, we didn't have aluminum when I was in school, but we did go to bamboo bats. I do remember that. And what it meant was the game was going to be very offensive. No lead was safe. Coaches would want to steal second or hit and run with an 8-1 lead. And a lot of big league managers, big league general managers, sort of looked down their noses at college baseball because they felt that it was Bush League to do many things like that. To steal bases with a 7-run lead was deemed Bush League. But in the college game, coaches did it because they knew once they got to their third or fourth pitcher, then they could get lit up. So no lead was ever safe. There were great players then, but most of the great pitchers coming up in high school were being drafted right out of high school. And a lot of major league people were telling young players that they shouldn't go to college because those coaches will throw their arms out. I remember for years, commentators on Major League Baseball, Peter Gammons, who was a well-respected Hall of Fame scribe in Major League Baseball, couldn't stand the college game. And I had some on-air disputes with him about it because I loved the college game. It was a different game. But what we've seen now is the evolution of the sport from a pitching standpoint. And most of the great pitchers, the ones that are really effective, that are coming out of coming into Major League Baseball through the draft, are coming from college. And I think one of the reasons for that is the cooperation now between the big leagues and the college game. They see it for what it is. You know, minor league ball has struggled. They've struggled to keep franchises in certain places. And as a result, the colleges now have become a pretty good form of minor league baseball. I think a great college pitcher now will move up, maybe not go directly to the big leagues, but he won't spend much time in single A or double A before he gets to the bigs. That wasn't the case 30, 35 years ago.
Tim, I'm impressed by the baseball knowledge. I'm going to keep these baseball questions going before we dive into a little bit of college football. Obviously, born and raised in Louisiana, I am fascinated with the, you know, people say the Cajun word is brought up, of course, but, you know, the passion is unbelievable. I was able to go to the SEC tournament in Hoover several weeks ago, and tons of LSU fans made the trip. Nicest people. I mean, being from Louisiana, what can you tell somebody? Like, how would you describe that culture, how they support their teams, and, you know, just the fascination with that culture? I love it. And you've seen it in Omaha. There's going to be a lot more make the trip up there, as you know. Just tell me more about that culture down there.
Well, I was there when the foundation was built. I had been working in radio. George knows all this because he's a contemporary, but I started in radio after I got married in 1978. I'm right out of school, and I go to Baton Rouge, and I'm there in 1979, 1980, 81, covering LSU, obviously, on all sports. Became very close to the LSU program, and when they started a pay-per-view cable network, which was way ahead of its time, called Tiger Vision, I became the voice of LSU basketball in 1982. I had been a Cub reporter and a guy that was doing the first ever sports talk show on a daily basis in Baton Rouge prior to that. I later moved to New Orleans and did radio there for about 1.5 to 2 years, and then came back to do television at the CBS affiliate as their nightly 6 and 10 sportscaster. And when I did that in 1984, Skip Bertman was hired away from Miami. And when he came in, LSU baseball was dormant. They had a fine old coach there by the name of Jack LeMabe, who was a bullpen catcher most of his big league career. I remember him fondly, I do. And they had some good teams, but they couldn't draw mosquitoes at their ballpark. I mean, no one went to LSU baseball games. When Bob Broadhead became the athletic director, he had worked for Joe Robbie in Miami, pretty much the finance controller for Joe Robbie with the Dolphins. Broadhead came in with this vision of turning LSU athletics as a sleeping giant into something really, really big. And he did. And the hiring of Skip Bertman was, I think, probably his first and foremost hire to gain credibility. And Bertman basically took the Ron Frazier philosophy of promotion to get business people in and around the Baton Rouge community to rally around baseball. There were great athletes, always magnificent baseball players in the state of Louisiana. But as a kid that played high school baseball, and I could have played college, I didn't because I was already in broadcasting. But as a kid that played with a lot of guys that did play college baseball, most of the great high school players were always being told by their coaches, okay, baseball is going to help you stay in shape for spring football. Okay, you're not going to be a scholarship baseball player because they only have a few scholarships, not many. And they still don't. You know, there's only 13 scholarships in basketball. There's only 11 and a half even now in college baseball. So you had to give guys half rides. You had to have a lot of walk-ons that came in. You know, a lot of the players were coming from organized baseball and some families that were of some wealth, and maybe they didn't need to have a scholarship. But, you know, Bertman rallied the business community there to give to his program. When he was hired at LSU, I think he only made $35,000 a year. Think about that. In 1984, he made his money in promotion and by selling himself in and around the community, and turned it into something really, really big. Ron Polk had already done that at Mississippi State. Ron Frazier had done it at Miami. There were some other solid programs in the South, but none that compared to the teams out west, like USC, who had Rod Dato, a New Orleans native, by the way, who was the coach at SC, had all those great teams with Fred Lynn and Dave Winfield and so many others that played at Southern California in the 70s. They were dominating the Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12 with Arizona State. Mike Brock was their coach. Some of the all-time greats. Barry Bonds was on a team for Arizona State that I covered in 1985. The Arizona schools, all of them were really, really good. The college baseball became a big deal in the SEC in large measure because of Ron Polk first at Mississippi State and Skip Bertman right after that, who took it to another level by winning the multiple national titles. They got to their first series in 1986. They win again in 87, missed in 88, went back in 89. That was the Ben McDonald year, who went on to be a first-round pick with the Orioles, is now in the booth calling the games. Ben was a tremendous pitcher. In 87, he gave a walk-off as a freshman. He gave up a walk-off home run to Paul Carey of Stanford. That was another great program in the Pac-10 back then that won the national championship. But it was Skeens that just broke his all-time SEC and LSU strikeout record just yesterday. So that record stood for 34 years. Think about that. And then Todd Walker came along, the 91 team. Joey, don't call me Albert, don't call me Joey Bell, was on that team, got suspended from the team. That team went on to win the national title in 91. Walker was a star, the Golden Spikes winner in 93. And the hits just kept on coming. And they went on to win, as you know, for Skip, 5 College World Series championships. And Maneri got another one in 2009. But I saw it from its very foundation.
Which is awesome. I love that perspective. One more before we take a break. Tim, would you mind sticking with us after the break for one more segment?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
No problem.
Okay, before we go to the break, though, you mentioned Skeens. He just broke Ben McDonald's record for strikeouts in a season in the SEC for an SEC pitcher. Obviously, you got to see Ben McDonald up close and personal, and that's, for a lot of the younger generation, they may hear the name Ben McDonald and convince themselves, oh, there's no way he was just as good or better than Paul Skeens. But tell me about Ben McDonald, but also how he compares to a guy like Paul Skeens in today's era.
Well, he was a giant guy on the mound at that time. He also played really well for Dale Brown. In 1986 and 1987, Dale had a team that went to the Final Four in 1986. And in 1987, Coach Brown lost one of his really great players, a power forward named Nikita Wilson. And Ben came and walked on to the basketball team. He asked Coach Bertman if he could help Coach Brown. Dale had a great relationship with Skip. A lot like Skip, Dale had to convince people to come to basketball games. Basketball, other than Pete Maravich, no one was really interested in LSU basketball after Maravich left. Dale came in 72, and by 79, 80, 81, 82, he had a dynasty that was contesting Kentucky for dominance in the Southeastern Conference, went to 2 Final Fours. In 87, the year they lost to Indiana in the regional finals, Ben McDonald was on that team and got a lot of playing time. So he was a consummate 3-sport athlete. And as a pitcher, he was as tall and as menacing a presence as you could possibly think. Now, he wasn't quite as thick as Skeens. Skeens, I think, is 6'6", goes about 247, 250. Ben was a bit more wiry, but he was strong. You could tell he was one of those relatively thin guys that had a lot of power to him. And he was a power pitcher. And Bertman knew but Bertman said that was the greatest recruit at that time that he had ever picked up for LSU. Knew he was going to be a top 10 pick. And he carried that program from a pitching standpoint every year that he was there, from his freshman year on. It was really unfortunate the way he gave up that home run to Carey, who, by the way, had a great major league career himself, played mostly for the Toronto Blue Jays. But Carey took a a high hard one over the left field wall when the wind was blowing out at Rosenblatt. LSU had a 5-2 lead, looked like they were headed to the finals, and then boom, Stanford took them down. I'll never forget that. I know Ben won't either, but he was a tremendous pitcher. Had some arm problems that cut short his career as a big leaguer, but he and Jim Palmer are doing Orioles games together. You know, Palmer was a part of that 20-win, multiple 20-win team that won a World Series back in 1970, 71 too. They were always, it seemed, in the World Series with Brooks Robinson, Boog Powell, and all those guys. Ben could have had an even greater Hall of Fame career, but he did run into some arm difficulties once he got about 6-7 years into his career. But he was one of, if not the best college pitcher I ever saw with my own eyes, you know, calling a college baseball game.
He's the best. There's nothing like hearing Ben's voice watching an LSU baseball game.
He's an old a country boy from Denham Springs.
Yeah.
That comes out over the air. He's and he's a workaholic. You know, he just wants to get better. When he got into broadcasting, he called me up and asked me to advise him some, mentorship a little, and I happily did it because I knew him when he was a young man.
He's awesome. He's the best. We're going to talk a little bit more with Tim Brando about the transfer portal, about SEC expansion, the 8-game conference schedule instead of 9. We're diving into Tim's powerhouse, his bread and butter, college football, coming up next here on the George Plaster Show.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Links. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Single game tickets are on sale now.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700, send us a message at celestemiddleton.com, or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
We're back here on the George Plaster Show. The history lesson continues with one of the greats, Tim Brando, and we're going to dive into the transfer portal now. And I want to kind of connect football and baseball to this, because last night Jay Johnson made a comment about the transfer portal, and he's made comments about the portal as well. He's actively, of course, trying to bring players to Baton Rouge and to LSU and to that powerhouse of a program. You can't blame him. But he said, and obviously this has been taken out of context several times, but basically what he said is, after watching last night's game, there's no other place that you should rather that want to play than LSU right here, in Baton Rouge. Obviously LSU fans love it. They want players, to come to LSU, but there's also, I don't know about the older generation, but the people that may not be as big of fans as the portal and maybe taking away from the purity of college sports. And we've seen it in football as well. Tim, it has drastically changed college sports. So what is your view on the transfer portal, I guess, connected with NIL? Because, let's face it, they are synonymous with each other in today's day and age.
Billy, and I think one of the reasons I have managed to navigate my way through 5 decades of our business is because I learned how to adapt and how to adjust. Because in any business, there's going to be change. You're going to have to deal with it. Sadly, college athletics had been stuck in molasses forever. It was, along with, I think, Major League Baseball, the 2 slowest sports to catch up to, 21st century sports in America. Really. Some of the changes that even the purists of baseball hated have been proven to really be working in Major League Baseball this year. Some of the pitchers hate the clock, but has the clock helped the viewing? Has it helped the ratings? It has. And the idea or the notion here of the old guard being in control, we're not anymore. Decisions aren't made on the demographic that I'm in. Baby boomers, hey, this just in to my peers, we're outnumbered. Things are changing in the world around us. College coaches, many of whom have been around as long as I have, or maybe longer, they're gritting their teeth now. They don't like it. I think Nick Saban is a great example. He is the greatest of all time. And publicly, he'll tell you that he's okay with the portal and he's okay with the NIL. The truth is, he's not. He really isn't. But in order to get that next national title, which will put him in rarefied air and get him beyond Bear Bryant all time, it would be his 7th at Alabama and his 8th overall when he gets it. He's got to play the game. All the coaches in college football have to play the game. And baseball and basketball, and particularly women's sports, I think a lot of fans overlook how much the portal is helping. A lot of athletes have careers that can either be extended with an extra year of eligibility, maybe can get closer to home because they can transfer more easily. Maybe the big school didn't offer them a scholarship right away. The backup catcher didn't play last night, but the kid Trubinsky from LSU, he went to Nicholls State in Thibodeau. He didn't get an opportunity to play at LSU. Played 1 year there and then went to New Orleans to play junior college ball for 1 more year. And then he got to LSU. There are a lot of stories like that. Jay Johnson's 2 big stars last night, beyond just Morgan, who was incredible with that play in the 8th inning and has really been the hitting star overall in the series for LSU. His 2 big guns at the end were Hurd, who is a UCLA transfer, and Tommy Tanks, who's a North Carolina State transfer. White, who took it out of the park with Cruz on first, he was playing at North Carolina State last year. So a lot of guys that may have not been capable of getting to a place like LSU can transfer and get there by their junior or senior year. Skeens, as you well know, well documented, was at Air Force and plans to serve his country after his playing career is done. But once he found out that he had something a little special, he happily transferred from Air Force for his final year of eligibility. If you don't adjust and adapt to where the sport is going as a coach and as an administration, you're going to be left behind. As for the fans, let me put it to you this way. I hear all the gnashing of teeth from old fans that are calling radio shows on a daily basis. And they call them because they have some time to call them. Most of them are my age or older. Some of them may be a little bit younger. And they'll begin their conversation by saying, well, back in my day, God bless nostalgia. Listen, I love the history that I have in sports, and I relish, in some cases, the way things used to be. But the way things are is the way things are. And if you want to be relevant and you want to continue to be successful, you got to make the necessary adjustments and adaptations. And let me just say this from a football standpoint. For all the negativity that I heard all last year leading up to the start of the college football season, post-COVID, okay, when the game started, I didn't hear it anymore. It's just when people have time away from the game to think about what's going on, and they hear or they read some of the stories about, a kid with an NIL deal worth $1.5 million, and maybe a kid that could be recruited for $2 million at quarterback, they lose it. They just can't stand it. Well, that's the world we're living in now. And today's player is asked to deliver, and a lot more delivery immediately when he gets to the college campus than the college player was, in 1985, 1995, or even 2005. So the game has changed. I think ultimately it's for the good. Coaches, players, administrators have been making a lot of money for a lot of years, and a lot of these young men are able to do some really good things with the money that they make. We do need to regulate it. We have to get some stability to the process. So I'm right there with the coaches about finding a way to get state laws to match. Okay, what they're talking about in California is nuts. But then again, that's California. They've always been nuts. We just have to understand that what Gavin Newsom's trying to push through cannot work, should not work, and we need to get some help from someone that isn't partisan. I do think that the commissioners of college football know that they have something special, and they've got to find a way with the sport flourishing and all the revenue coming in. They've got to find a way to unify things, and that's going to take the leaders of college football, people like Greg Sankey, who I expect a lot from. Okay, I make no bones about my criticism of a recent decision he made in Destin. The same is true of my former boss, Tony Petitti, who I worked for 9 years at CBS, who's now the commissioner of the Big Ten. Those two men need to have a great relationship, and they need to bring in the other commissioners, Brett Yormark with the Big 12, Clay Avkoff of the Pac-12, if he can hold on to that league, and Mike Oresco, my friend, former programmer at CBS and ESPN, now the head of the American Conference. These great minds need to get together for the common good, okay, and say, you know what, if we can't get help from Congress, then it's going to be us, the people that are leading the 10 conferences that govern college football, to do something and govern ourselves, because the NCAA can't anymore. They've proven that. And we're in this position of the lack of unified regulation of NIL and the portal because the NCAA kicked the can down the curb for 15 or more years. So those are the people to blame. It's now time to find a solution, and these men, I trust, can find it if they lead properly. And I've seen examples of great leadership from Sankey and others, and I've seen some indications where they've lacked some leadership as well. And I believe, I've always felt this way. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about the broadcasts. The game comes first, but after the game is over, I want to see athletics held in a high regard. I don't want to give those that want to poke holes in it an opportunity to have a right to be critical, have a right to say that it's corrupt. And there are times when things happen that we can't control as broadcasters that make the sport look bad. And when that happens, I'm going to point it out. That was certainly the case when I was critical of the SEC's mirage of 15 months, making us believe we were going to go to 9 games and then pulling the plug on it at the 11th hour on the beach of Destin, Florida.
Yeah, and I want to get into that. It's interesting you say coaches have to adapt to today's day and age of the NIL and the transfer portal. It feels to me the SEC is unwilling to adapt to the rest of the country because the rest of the country, every other conference plays a 9-game conference schedule, which, I agree with the opinion of if you're going to play an 8-game conference schedule, that takes away from, that non-conference game and the appeal of SEC football. Fans want to watch SEC teams play each other, and that's taking away another game of that season. So I know you agree with me, Tim. So again, I didn't really get a chance to hear your opinion. I think I know your opinion, but where does your opinion stem from there?
Well, Billy, first and foremost, I was very upset about it, largely because I'm connected to the sport, and I keep up with what's going on with the sport, and I think a lot of the colleagues of Greg Sankey in college football that have similar positions in other leagues were anticipating that they'd go to 9 games. We are going to a 12-team format for the college football playoff. It only stands to reason in the league that bills itself as it just means more, that more conference games would be in the best interest of the conference, in the best interest of its television partner, and they made a new deal for television almost 5 years ago. 5. I mean, it was prior to 2019 when ESPN announced that they were going to have this new deal where all of their family of networks would be in control of college football. CBS still had its 3:30 window game, the game that I was part of for 18 years, hosting in studio in New York. They still had it and still do have it. Those 3:30 games will still be on CBS this year. Finally, the new contract will start next season. So I think we all thought that they'd go to 9 games. And when they chose not to me, it was very obvious the reason why. The commissioner decided to yield to the presidents of the schools that don't figure into the equation for the college football playoff. Rather, the presidents of those schools who want to give their coaches a better opportunity of winning 6 games so they can go to a bowl game. I mean, what? I mean, why should that matter, particularly now when we're talking about 12 spots, not 4, 12. And if you want to get teams 10, 11, and 12 in, I got to tell you, the idea of a team at 9-3 filling in the 11th and 12th hole, and maybe even the 10th, there's a pretty good chance of that. So when you're weighing strength of schedule for a team that could be potentially 9-3, then I think it really does matter whether you play 8 or 9 conference games, particularly if we're talking comparisons with the Big Ten or the Big 12, both quality leagues. Big 12 is a lot better than a lot of SEC fans want to give them credit for being. And holding up the 65-7 score on TCU, as Sankey did in comments that he made at the beach, I thought was beneath him. It smacked of arrogance. It was something I didn't like at all. And I said it. And if I upset the conference office, so be it. If I upset some of the people in media that I was critical of, and I was specifically critical of his interview with a longtime friend of mine that I've known for 35 years, Paul Feinbaum, I apparently pissed him off too. I really don't care. I don't. I'd say it again and again and again because we expect more from the SEC. We're talking about the most powerful man in college athletics. It's been written by more people than me that he is. So when he took over the SEC through the COVID period, I was the first to point out what a great leader he was, how he wasn't just being a commissioner for his league, but he was being a commissioner, a czar, if you will, for all of college football. People forget that I said that. Okay. Well, to whom much is given, much is required. And I require that he does a better job than that. So that's why I pointed out. The answer they give is, well, this is just for 1 year. Well, why is it just for 1 year? I'll tell you why. They want more money from ESPN. And ESPN hasn't even started the contract yet. They got $300 million from them almost 5 years ago. They haven't started the deal yet. So that's the conversation that was going on. And no one wanted to bring it up because I guess a lot of people in the press felt that they didn't want to lose their credentials to SEC games by pointing out, that that's really what it was all about. It was about, well, if they want more money, they're going to have to pay more cash. I mean, ESPN does not need my defense. But if I'm a suit there, I'm like, are you kidding me? You're going to give me Alabama Austin P instead of Alabama Tennessee or Alabama Auburn or Alabama LSU. And that's why Saban said what he did. Saban, who's been a 9-game proponent forever, said, oh, yeah, I really prefer 8 games. Why? Because he found out his 3 opponents are going to be Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU. He didn't like that. So it's a matter of convenience for the coaches.
As George would say, money grubby is what the SEC and the NFL have turned into. I mean,
and when you're the best, and everyone says you're the best, and you are, well, I'll give them that. No question about that. But again, I thought it was really Bush League to point out, well, it might be 8 games, but, the Big 12 champion was undefeated. We beat them 65-7. Using that analogy, that's something a caller should say on a radio show, not a commissioner of a football league as great and with as much history as the Southeastern Conference has. So I took exception to that, and I would take exception to it if he were the commissioner of the Big Ten or the commissioner of any conference. TCU got there by beating a Michigan team that beat Ohio State. Okay, they had every right to be there. In certain matchups, things can happen. Players get injured. Ohio State lost their best receiver. Otherwise, who knows? Georgia might not have been in that game if Ohio State had not lost their best receiver in that game. They were depleted at wide receiver when they played the game. TCU in the Michigan win lost their best running back, who's going to be playing for the Saints next year, Kendra Miller. So they didn't have a running game to help Max Duggan out. So it happens. Games are games, and to throw TCU and the Big 12 under the bus like that, I thought was really wrong.
I could sit here and talk college sports with you forever, Tim. I mean, this could be 3-4 hours, but we got to get to the break. And thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been an honor. It's been a blast. I'll tell George you said hi, and enjoy your weekend and watching LSU in Florida this weekend.
You got it, Billy. And best to you. It's the first time we've chatted. You're there because George isn't. Trust me, you're with a great guy. I've known George forever. He's one of the best. And you're in good hands with him. And if ever you need any help, just give me a buzz.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Tim Brando, legendary broadcaster with Fox Sports right now. Of course, he's done a lot of broadcasting for a lot of sports. So it's always great to get that insight and get that history lesson there. Coming up, we'll get George's bet of the day. We'll see what he's going with tonight, and we'll wrap it up. We'll get you set for the weekend with a big national title series starting tomorrow night with Florida and LSU. Stay tuned. One more segment coming up here on the George Plaster Show. As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at bairdifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Welcome back in. Final segment on a Friday. Plaster's Better Today, presented to you by Bart Durham Injury Law Firm. They are, simply put, the best in the business. They are lawyers you can trust. So give them a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. And last night for George, the Yanks
let them down.
Took a butt whooping last night against the Mariners.
I couldn't believe that. I checked the score. They're down 10-0.
10-0.
It's like, what in the world is going on?
And Georgia been hot this week. He's been riding
here's what I think happened. George did the double jinx on the Yanks. He knew the Yanks were going to lose, so he bet on them to get the happiness of the Yanks losing because he's been so hot.
I'm sure he sent Terry McCormick a text message after that.
I'm sure he did. I sent him one last night. I said, George, what in the world is going on with the Yanks? He said, it was a hilarious text back. What did he say? Into each life, some rain must fall.
Oh, interesting. He'd been riding the big red machine, as we like to call him here the last 11 days.
So. I don't think he's riding with them tonight because they're going against his Bravos.
Sold out tonight, by the way.
He's in for a treat. That's going to be a great atmosphere up in Cincinnati
tonight. Going to be an
tonight.
awesome atmosphere at Great American Small Park.
All right,
a lot of Braves home runs, hopefully.
Yeah, and a lot of Braves fans in there as well. Tonight, George is riding with the Philadelphia Phillies, minus 120 against the New York Mets. David, your thoughts?
I mean, this one is a win-win for me.
Do you
because
agree?
I don't like either of the teams. Philadelphia is at home. I think
who's pitching tonight?
It might be Zach Wheeler, which might be a really good bet for George. You know, the Phillies just came off a abridged version of the series against the Braves, lost both games to the Braves. So I'm sure we'll let Basilio know about that.
The Sillies, as Tony calls them, the Philadelphia Sillies. So George is riding with Tony B's Phillies tonight over the Mets. And for Braves fans, I mean, this is a win-win because one of these teams are going to lose.
Well, it's not Wheeler. It is Senga versus Walker. So I actually
Taijuan Walker.
I actually might think the Mets might win that one.
Interesting bet, George, going against Taijuan Walker for the Mets, who's been really
Walker's on the Phillies now.
Or that's the Phillies.
He pitched for the Mets last year.
Okay, so he's riding with Taijuan. Okay, now I'm with that.
I think Senga's gonna.
You like Senga tonight?
I think the Mets gonna win this one.
Okay, George, that would be 2 in a row for George. He's got it. I think he should stay with the Reds. The Reds. I know they're playing the Braves, but the Reds feels like the Reds haven't lost. When George
Braves are going to be
them.
pitching 2 rookies this weekend. Smith Sauvier is going tonight. Schuster as well
tomorrow.
So
it might be a little iffy, but we'll see. I mean, the bats have been so good; it's hard to bet against the Braves.
Yeah,
so.
but since he's been hot as well, so we'll see. That'll be a great series. Great baseball.
It's gonna be fun.
Great fan bases.
Yeah, the crowd will probably be something 50-50. I mean, half and half, maybe 60-40 Reds.
You know, there's going to be some Braves fans.
Oh yeah, that's why it's sold out. Because the Reds have, I mean, they've been showing up, but not quite to sellout level. So I think a lot of that are Braves fans, but we'll see. Of course, Braves Reds tonight. George is riding with the Phillies over the Mets. And that'll do it for myself, Billy Derrick. That's David Wilson over there at the producer chair. Stay tuned next week. I'll be off, but George will be back with David. So thanks for tuning in. Have a good weekend, everybody. You've been listening to the George Plaster Show.